Offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel has brought in several new offensive coaches to help implement his new system, but today we learned two of the Greg Roman era coaches are going to be sticking around.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. David, what do we got today?
Whenever a new offensive coordinator comes into town, he wants to bring in his staff, but he was evaluating and thought that Sanjay Lal and Shane were going to be assets for his staff going forward. So we're going to talk about that, and we got to get into a painful question. Is it going to be Tyler Linderbaum or Odafe Oweh? If we had to pick, that one was painful. And with Mike McDaniel coming in, there's a lot of excitement. Could McConkey be a top 5 wide receiver?
I mean, I think we could definitely say his sophomore slump will be a thing of the past, in my beliefs. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. David, Jeremy Fowler on Thursday ended up reporting that the Chargers plan to retain wide receivers coach Sanjay Lal and quarterbacks coach Shane per source. Much change on offense with Mike McDaniel's arrival, but he will work with both coaches. And that is a statement in one way or another, because we knew once he took over at his press conference, he said that he's going to be evaluating, every coach and sitting down with each of those coaches and then deciding from there whether they were the right people going forward to be able to coach the guys and implement the scheme that he wants to implement in Los Angeles. And we'll talk about Shane because there are some connections there, and that one we felt like he was going to stay in the role he currently is in as quarterback coach. But they had a relationship, right? Him and Sanjay Lal had no connection as far as I could find, right? And I think that is more of a statement with Sanjay Lal, because I think it kind of goes to how impressive of a job he's done with these young wide receivers over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think when you're looking at coaches and you're trying to evaluate them, it's kind of difficult, right? You're just trying to look for marks of tangible progression among his unit, and I think we've seen that. We've seen players under his teachings get better and actually improve year over year. Obviously, to me, the poster child for that is Quentin Johnston, who's gotten exponentially better in a large part of his game. But also, you see wide receivers that are competent and aggressive blockers in the running game, really getting good productivity there, and then just overall productivity. His unit had three wide receivers over 650 receiving yards. So guys that were very, very productive in a myriad of different roles. And I think his wide receivers were very technically sound, and they blocked very well. So I think anything that they were asked to do, they did at a pretty high level. And I think those are all marks of a good coach, and why it was not out of the question or, something that was surprising when Mike McDaniel decided to continue working with Sanjay Lal.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, he took a special interest in Quentin Johnston, who really had so much to kind of prove and could have gone the way of other kind of first-round bust wide receivers, where the skill set and the technique really can never match up with the skill set and the physical tools. And that's what it's been all about with Quentin Johnston. So, like, when you hear about, him being out there before all the rest of the wide receivers, just so that Sanjay Lal can throw like 100 footballs over his head so he can catch him, over the shoulder. Like, it's just one of the many examples you could point to and say, look, this guy is developing these young receivers. And like 4 of the Chargers, top 6 receivers last year, top 5 receivers last year were all guys that have been drafted in the last 3 years, right? 2 rookies, a second-year player in McConkey, and then Quentin Johnston, who was in year 3 last year. So to get what they did, like you said, 3 receivers over 700-plus yards, 2 of those 3 guys haven't been in the league for, 3 or less years at that point, is super impressive. And I just think that to have not the connection to Mike McDaniel to stick around, it's pretty interesting. And I think says a lot about how they feel about Sanjay Lal.
Yeah, it's a big vote of confidence for sure.
Jim Harbaugh definitely, right? Like, I'm sure had some say in this as well, but they did move on from Marcus Brady. They did move off from Andy Bischoff, right?
Yeah.
They did move off from Keel McDonald. They could have made Max McCaffrey the wide receiver coach, who they ended up making their running back coach. That's a position he played, right? That's a position he's
Yep.
coached before. Instead, and we thought that's what it would be when we saw that move. We thought, okay, that's kind of interesting, right? But the one that makes more sense because of their ties is Shane Day, which I think this is kind of a perfect kind of love triangle here between Shane Day, Mike McDaniel, and Justin Herbert, because Shane Day is sticking around. He worked in the same capacity with the 49ers when Mike McDaniel was the offensive coordinator there only a couple of years ago. And now he stays in that same role in Los Angeles as maybe the one coach that we've seen Justin Herbert seemingly kind of handpick to bring in after he was let go in the Brandon Staley era.
Yeah, and I think they had a QB coach with Doug Nussmeier, and that was pretty much the only time that Justin Herbert and Shane Day were apart, and so
yeah, and then his rookie year was Pep Hamilton,
right? Yeah, Pep Hamilton, but they've been working together for several years, and that relationship is real, and it definitely does feel like that was the one guy that he went to the Chargers organization and was like, hey guys, like. Can I please get my quarterback's coach back? Like he's available. I want that. It was never put out there. Nobody ever said anything about it. It wasn't reported, but you just had a feeling that that's what happened. And Justin Herbert doesn't seem like the type of person to make demands or want to be involved in the day-to-day operations or anything like that. So this was one example to me where he's like, hey, I know this guy knows me. I feel like we've done great work together, and seems like Mike McDaniel is acknowledged that. And obviously having a previous relationship makes that a whole lot easier to be able to do.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, when Day was let go the first time, it was because they had brought in Kellen Moore and he wanted to bring in Doug Nussmeier, right, who knew the system. And that's the thing is with Shane Day, you're talking about someone that might not know Mike McDaniel's specific system, but comes from the Shanahan roots and had, a couple of seasons coaching with Mike Shanahan, or Kyle Shanahan, I should say, in San Francisco, but also in 2014 and 2015 was on the same Washington staff as Sean McVay when Sean McVay was the offensive coordinator there. So a couple years under Shanahan, a couple years under McVay makes him, I think, one of the better people, especially with his already built-in relationship with Justin Herbert, to help kind of ease the process of him, having his fifth offensive coordinator going into year 7. So I think that's something that for him, it makes a lot of sense connection-wise, because we know it's about relationships, and we know that for him, he is someone that is kind of a particular case, right? Like he's not someone that seemingly would get along with everybody. I mean, it's hard to say because there's so little of his personality that we actually see. But if he likes someone, maybe stick it out with that dude. And it's also the guy that was standing next to him on the sideline during his most productive season in 2021, where he put up 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. And now it feels like any day now, David, we could see this final coaching staff rolled out. I mean, I think still the only position we don't know yet is still the tight ends coach.
Yeah, that's the only thing that we're waiting on. But it seems like, this was these two decisions here to retain Sanjay Lal and Shane Day were part of probably getting close to getting towards the end of completing that coaching staff. It seems like that was, obviously a very important hurdle to be able to jump over. And now it's just about finding that tight ends coach and then putting out that post to be able to see who the actual full coaching staff is going to be. I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. I'm very encouraged, and also just have a lot of confidence in Jim Harbaugh and his ability to put together an all-star type of staff, because he's always done that. He's always said, I am going to die leaning on my staff. One of his great sayings that he's put out there. So yeah, we'll like to see what that looks like. I'm sure it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and the thing is like the one kind of whiff that he's had was Greg Roman, and this is kind of the ultimate replacement / upgrade that you could get over that
major upgrade
with Mike McDaniel. So he might have died because he was not leaning on the Greg Roman staff any longer after the 2 paltry playoff performances by this offense we've seen.
He just got a stronger, better staff.
But there's a lot of excitement, and I think especially with the Chargers having as much space in free agency that they have, so much kind of excitement that this team could look a lot different and even much better. So we're going to talk about 2 big names Odafe Oweh and Tyler Linderbaum. If you can only have one, who are you choosing? We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year. Whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds an extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you cash your pick, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. And right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are the favorites to do it at plus 130. But just making the bet, you don't have to win it, gives you that chance to be entered into the sweepstakes to, I think, go cross off a bucket list item. At least for me, it is going to an NBA Finals game. But all you have to do, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. David, I love getting into the fan content and love letting you guys kind of have your voice on what we should talk about. And there's been a lot of offensive line ones, but we haven't had many as tough as the one that we're going to have to get to here because the Chargers have some major free agency decisions coming up. And I would say starting kind of next week, we've already kind of tilted in that direction. It'll be kind of full bore on who our favorite free agents are and who the Chargers should sign as things start getting closer. But the one thing I hate about fan questions is sometimes they put us in a predicament and make us have to answer the really tough questions, which is what we have here from Matthew.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Matthew. So I know we wanted Tyler Linderbaum from Ravens and want to sign Odafe Oweh. So in the position, which one would you choose to sign if you had a choice? You could only sign one person. Which one would you choose? Let me know what you guys think. Thanks, guys. What's up?
This is like making me have to pick between my children. I mean, I only have one, but this is what I feel like it would feel like if I had to. David, I'm interested. Where did you end up going with this one? Because I had a tough time.
Yeah, I hate this question. I remember when I saw it first, I was like, man, that's rude. That's just really rude after I heard it. Right. But I think to me the answer is clear, although it is difficult. To me, after the past few seasons, it's all about protecting Justin Herbert. I don't care what it takes. To me, I want the best protection money can buy from my $262 million quarterback who has gotten absolutely abused the last few seasons, especially last year, where it was unbelievably noticeable. It just can't happen again. As much as I love Odafe Oweh, and I really, really like the athlete that he is and the tools that he brings to the table, and I really feel like he has a bright future, especially in this defensive scheme where they really figured out how to maximize him and get the most out of him. It's all about protecting Justin Herbert. I think that's how you are going to get over the hurdle that you have not been able to get over the past few seasons, because the biggest crutch has always been the biggest crutch and it hasn't been fixed. So this offseason, if it's, hey, you got to make a decision, it's all about protecting number 10.
Yeah, and I think a part of that, right, is just what's available to you, because there are plenty of edge rushers that are going to be available, and not to say that all of them are the level of Odafe Oweh. He's one of the top available for a reason, and it's going to cost that much for a reason. But when you look at the center position specifically, like it's Tyler Linderbaum, it's Connor McGovern, and it's Cade Mays, right? And Cade Mays probably more of a gap scheme fit. Either way, you'll just take any upgrade you can get. But at the same time, that's pretty thin if you miss out. And then if you do miss out in center, like you're going to have to get somebody, or else there's really no one in the draft that you can, I think, just kind of pencil in as like a first round level center, or someone that, you know, is kind of an unmissable Creed Humphrey type of a prospect.
Yeah, no sure things.
Get, right? Yeah. And there never is, but sometimes it feels a lot closer than others. This year doesn't feel like that as far as the options they have there. So I would tend to agree with you now. If you could tell me you could, you know, get Odafe Oweh signed and you're also going to sign Connor McGovern, right?
Yeah.
Sign me up for that, right? I'll take the second best center available and bring back, you know, who was probably down the stretch the most effective Chargers pass rusher last season. But you can't guarantee that, right? I mean, I guess you kind of could, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I do think, like with Tyler Linderbaum, I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I was seeing so many posts about how bad of a pass protector he is, and in some metrics even being worse than Bradley Bozeman. Maybe I'll refute those or kind of disprove those on another show a little bit deeper. But let me tell you that they're not in the same ballpark. I watched the games that he technically allowed the most pressure and came away. It was like I was seeing a unicorn because of what I've been watching compared to what the Chargers have had over the last couple of seasons. So he has my full sign off. He's a much better pass protector. I'm not going to kind of trust the statistics from last year when I don't even necessarily agree with them after kind of watching where those pressures were attributed from. But let's get to this one here from iMoss on YouTube, who says, the Bills just voided Connor McGovern's contract. Should Joe Ortiz go after him now or wait for Linderbaum and possibly miss out? David, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like Connor McGovern. I like what he brings to the table for sure. And, you know, this is what Daniel Popper of The Athletic said about Connor McGovern. Said he has firm, reliable hands and pass protection. He's not an overly powerful player. He has an anchor that can let him down sometimes, but he wins consistently, both as a run blocker and a pass protector with technique, quick reactions, and athleticism. And also, he has some position flexibility. He's played, you know, both guard spots as well before, switching over to center. I think center is probably going to be his most lucrative position, but I think for Tyler Linderbaum, he's more of a scheme fit in what we're going to see with the Chargers. More, you know, been more in that zone. Zone scheme that they've been running over there, that they're going to be, you know, running over here with the Chargers under Mike McDaniel. And so, yeah, like I said, I want the absolute best person at the position available, and with that connection with Joe Ortiz being the Chargers general manager, I think that's probably who the Chargers want, and we know that already that there are reports out there that they're going to go full court press on trying to get him.
Yeah, I think that was from Jonathan Jones, I believe, is the one that said that. CBS Sports, something like that. But yeah, I did see that the Chargers, you know, have reported interest in him. But you know who else he has a relationship with? John Harbaugh, who's now coaching New York Giants, right? So if you do wait, that's, you know, the bidding war that you potentially get yourself into. Now, I believe since his contract was voided, you should be able to sign him basically at every time, and it's treated as if he was released, which means you could sign him at any time. This is from Pro Football Focus. McGovern's 78.5 pass blocking grade ranks 8th amongst 34 qualifying centers, while his 0.3% knockdown rate, sack, or quarterback hit allowed leads all players at the position. The player at best keeping a quarterback off of the ground. So, to me, if you could get him now, I would do it. I think, because the thing is like Linderbaum is going to cost the most. He's going to reset the position, you know, as far as what the AAV is. He's probably going to make more than Creed Humphrey, especially just because of how scarce getting good players at that position is, right? So
we know all about that.
That's the thing, though. It's like if you can be going into free agency and you're telling me center's already taken care of, right? Maybe you even have Odafe Oweh not even hit the market in that case too, right? Because you can actually mark that off your list as two of your most gigantic needs already taken care of. So ranked 7th in pass blocking efficiency last year, only allowed 18 pressures for the entire season. If you could lock him up right now, I would say do it. I mean, I firmly think he's the second best option. I 100% am in on Tyler Linderbaum number one, and I would pay him what it would take to do it. But if you're telling me right now this guy's released and you can cross that need before you even get to free agency, and you're not worried about losing out on the, you know, Tyler Linderbaum and potentially losing all the other options while you're in pursuit of him, yeah, I'd sign up for that. I don't think that's a bad deal at all. Let's get to one more here from Roberto Flores, who says, will the Chargers go all in on the offensive line in free agency and go best player available in the draft? I think, David, that has to be what the plan is, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely that's the plan. I think that they're going to make a couple of extra cuts. We've already talked about it, and they're going to have over $100 million in cap space. And for me, I want the best protection, and I want proven commodities at that position. You know, guys like a Dalton Reisner or a David Edwards and Isaac Siamalo. I mean, those are all guys that are proven commodities at the guard position, you know, and yeah, I want, obviously we already talked, I want a center and I want one of the best guys. It's either Linderbaum or McGovern. That's really it. I mean, that's where the bar is. That's where the sights are at. It's at the top of the market because they've tried the mid-range. They've tried the bargain bin at multiple positions. This isn't the time or the year to do that anymore. It's all about making sure that you can get the most proven commodities in front of Justin Herbert that you possibly can. And that means getting guys that have already been there and done that.
Yeah.
But also, you still have to do it in the draft as well, because you're going to have to get depth. Like, they're going to have to get top end guys and depth guys. So the answer is both. But yeah, I'm all about getting the best protection and going best player available at 22.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's about, right? At 22. And I think the problem with pigeonholing yourself into needing an offensive lineman at 22 is that there's probably only one guy there that's actually worth taking there, right? And it's the Penn State guard. So
Yeah.
I think that's the hole you dig yourself in. You don't have to, but I think, to me, ideally, right, it's you go top of the market, hopefully at center, and get Tyler Linderbaum. You get one mid-market maybe or aging player like a Zeitler or some of those, a Reisner, one of those guys as a stopgap. And then you take like a, high low risk, high reward type of player to fill that other position, and you get a rookie in the draft to go and challenge that, and that's where you kind of fill out the depth, but you don't necessarily need them to kind of save your offensive line this season.
Yes.
That would be my strategy. Easier said than done, but we still have more to get into today, including if McConkey would be so good under Mike McDaniel, he puts up a top 5 wide receiver season. We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which ones might just be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and the only one is going to take the top spot. And 5-Hour Energy also has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. I want to know what your favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy is and would be if you could create your own. But right now, there's a lot of flavors you could debate for the number one pick. For me, though, I'm going with something solid. I'm going with something consistent, something that I could have anytime and it always tastes great. And that is the birthday cake flavor, the confetti craze with the number one overall pick. No frills, just a really, really good tasting shot with notes of vanilla frosting without any of the sugar guilt you get with the real thing. But if I had a sleeper pick to take at the top of the draft, I think it's definitely the Hawaiian breeze, that you can actually taste the breeze with the passion fruit and guava flavors that just hit so smooth. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. David, we still have more to get into here because the Chargers obviously have a lot of excitement surrounding them with the Mike McDaniel pick. And if you watch the bonus episode, you'll hear about the one guy that all the experts think is going to have a breakout season. But we've talked a little bit just about what he can do for this passing game, what he could do for these wide receivers. How big of seasons could they have? Athir thinks obviously one of them is going to have a ridiculous season.
Daniel, David, hello, this is Athir. I have a question. What do I expect from Tre Harris and Ladd this coming season? I expect Ladd to have a big year, possibly a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Yes, I said it. And do we sign another receiver or do we draft one in round 3? Thank you. Love you.
Round 3 is very specific. I think for the Chargers, well, let's look at it, right? I mean, the 5th best receiver in receiving yards last year was Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had 1,401 receiving yards. I don't necessarily think that Ladd is going to hit that, but I do think a lot of that is because of the other weapons that they have now. Last year, Detroit had 2,000-yard receivers with him. Jamison Williams, if you're talking about where Ladd could get to, was the other guy in Detroit with over 1,000 yards. He had 1,117. So did Nico Collins. That puts you top 10. Top 10, you might get me to be able to buy in on, right? But I do think that there's a lot of ways he's going to help these receivers, David. And I do think both of these guys, are in line to get huge boosts. I mean, these two guys and Quentin Johnston all, I think, have a great argument for, hey, we're going to be used much better than we were last year with Greg Roman and put together much more productive, efficient seasons.
Yeah, I agree. There was a fantastic article that came out on the Chargers.com that was talking about who could benefit the most from Mike McDaniel coming in as offensive coordinator, and they talked about Ladd McConkey, and Shield Capadia basically said McConkey has already been good, but I think he's going to have opportunities to make plays down the field, and I completely agree with that. I think you saw what he was able to do with Jalen Waddle, with Tyreek Hill. Like just featuring them, putting those guys in positions to have success and utilize what they do well. And Ladd is a guy that wants the ball. Like, he is an alpha type of wide receiver. Like, hey, I want to be involved, and he should be involved. He's a guy that does everything very, very well. A very good route runner, very strong hands, really good quickness and very deadly with the ball in his hands with the yards after the catch. He can do a little bit of everything. And at times last year, it seemed like he just wasn't featured or he just disappeared. And that just should never happen. He should always get an ample amount of targets to make his imprint on the game because he's that type of player. I firmly believe that Mike McDaniel is going to help do that. And with Tre Harris as well. Tre Harris is a guy that was a receiver that had to earn his receiving snaps by being an excellent blocker. And he has a lot of tools that I think after he's able to prove himself, that he's going to be more featured in the offense and get more opportunities to shine. Everyone's going to benefit. Lab McConkey is going to benefit from being put right back where he should be, which is that number one target.
Yeah, and I mean, like he was his rookie, a borderline top 10 receiver, right? And obviously it is kind of, nice to know that Mike McDaniel has done it with other receivers of Lad McConkey's stature, right?
Yeah.
Obviously huge burners, but guys that are a little bit smaller. But yeah, this was also from that, shout out to the Omar Navarro and that article he wrote for Chargers.com. About Matt Harmon from Yahoo Sports on Tre Harris. I think he's going to play a bigger role than people think, and really excited to see him used more as a true receiver. Get the ball a little bit more because, as you said, he was used a lot as a blocker. He had to put in the dirty work, and they didn't feature him just for his receiving abilities. And I think, some of his stats probably took a hit because of that. But I mean, his rookie season wasn't all that much different than Quentin Johnston's was, right? Quentin Johnston had a little bit different expectations, though, as a first-round pick, and obviously had some more key drops and high-profile kind of plays that didn't go his way. But, yeah, I think, one of the great things I saw was from Matt Harmon on Twitter, who put that the Chargers were one of the more static offenses last year in the league when it comes to motioning, using play action, moving the pocket, and things of that nature, whereas the Dolphins were one of the highest teams in that. And them, getting a lot closer to that, I think, is going to help a lot of their skill position players. But let's get to this one from Rick H-Town, who says, other than Mike McDaniel, which coaching hire will prove to be the most effective? David, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, this one was pretty easy, and it's because of what we didn't see from the offensive line the past couple of years under Mike Devlin, which was no development. The guys that we knew were really good players, they went out there and they played really good football. The guys that we didn't know about or wanted to see some growth from, we didn't really see any at all. And I think to me, that's, another kind of a benchmark or a evaluation of what a coach can do. So that's why, and also what we've seen from the Chargers' new offensive line coach, Butch Barry in Miami, is that he was able to get the most out of some of the players that didn't have the same type of profiles as the players that the Chargers have, who had two top-end tackles. They didn't really have that same level of players over there and still got really good quality play. So I'm excited and I'm confident that Butch Barry is going to be able to get these guys playing very well and be able to improve their games, which is something we haven't seen the last few years.
Yeah, and I hope that we do see that, right? Like that is, I mean, to me, he's the easiest one to pick because I just think that not only did the offensive line look like it didn't have enough talent last year, it just looked like a poorly coached offensive line straight up, right? Like that's just what it was. You also talk about someone in Butch Barry who just helped Aaron Brewer go from like a good center as a Tennessee Titan to like an elite center as a Miami Dolphin. The Chargers needed a lot more talent, obviously, and it's hard to put it all on Mike Devlin. But I think there's a reason why only two coaches were fired immediately after the season, and Nick Hardwick wasn't one of them. And Mike Devlin and Greg Roman were the ones that got left immediately before Mike McDaniel even got in to boot him out of there. He was just gone from the get-go. So I think you get those five guys working in unison, that is going to do wonders with this Chargers offense. If I had a backup, just since you also went Butch Barry, maybe Denzel Martin, right? The guy that got the outside linebackers coach from the Steelers and now going to be an assistant with Dylan Roney in that room now with whatever that edge group looks like. That could be a very, very important position as well. But let's do one more here, end the show with this from Lyco, who says, David, awesome show. Do you see a scenario or possibility that Bradley Bozeman stays? We are all assuming he gets cut, but maybe he is too much of a leader or a Harbaugh guy, and that worries me. What do you think?
Absolutely not. I mean, who was also a Harbaugh guy? Greg Roman, and he had no problem firing him. So I don't think that there's any scenario in which Bradley Bozeman is remaining a Charger. The Chargers will save $5.85 million in cap space by letting him go, and they're only would be taking on a little over $1 million in dead cap. And also, it's just the simple fact that he was one of the worst centers in football last year, and you can't run it back. Also, he's just not a scheme fit for Mike McDaniel's offense. He's not athletic enough to get out there and pick off guys at the second level, as we've talked about on previous shows. No, there's absolutely no scenario in which I see Bradley Bozeman being a member of the Los Angeles Chargers next season.
Yeah, I don't think so too. I think one way or another, he's not playing for the Chargers, next year. So I think that could they keep him around? Is it impossible that they could keep him around as a backup? I mean, he's not making so much money that it's impossible. But I just feel like just to kind of, I don't even know if it's like proving something to the fan base or just kind of showing how serious you are. Like, there's just really no way you can bring back Mekhi Becton or Bradley Bozeman from the unit saw last year, and in Bozeman's case, even the year before.
Yeah.
And have us think that you're taking the protection of Justin Herbert seriously enough. And I think that's what it comes down to me. So could he be a backup? Sure. Did they want him to be a backup? I don't know. They might have wanted him to be a starting guard this year. They liked him so much. He is obviously loved by that team, and he's available, he's durable, all of those things. But all of those things only matter if you're good enough to be on the field, and he just wasn't last year, and the Chargers need much better. I think it's highly unlikely that he's back on the team in 2026. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Stay tuned because we're getting back into that Omar Navarro article later on, talking about the number one player the experts and analysts think is going to explode under Mike McDaniel. Pause. That is Omarion Hampton. So make sure you're back here for the bonus show later on this afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific time. To make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from, as well as finding it every day on all of our social media, including where everyone hit us up for today's show at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can also call into the voicemail line like Athir did today, like Matthew today, at 323-524-7924 and give us your 30-second Chargers buy or sell or question. But that is going to wrap things up for today's show. Make sure you're back for the bonus episode later on. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.